Hearing this, well done. You found a way to connect to the internet. Welcome to the QAA podcast, episode 341. See you in Valhalla, Charlie. As always, we are your hosts, Jake Rakutansky,
Liv Akar,
and Travis View. I leave for a week and a half, to go on a research trip that for a project I'm very excited about, which I had been, planning for months. And then this happens. I'm, of course, speaking of the horrifying assassination of right-wing activist, pundit, and podcaster Charlie Kirk. And, of course, all the subsequent fallout from it, which includes the Trump administration using the murder as a pretext to tighten their grasp on mass media, the right discovering their own love for cancel culture, and the FBI director, Kash Patel, making this bizarre comment at a press conference.
Lastly, to my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
Also, we have the watch. Is this like a Game of Thrones reference?
Game of Thrones? Oh.
Is it? Like, where's that from?
It's like you can be the FBI director and still want to be like a cold prisoner on top of like a ancient wall. I just, it's cool to be the FBI director, but even he's like, we have the watch. The walkers draw near.
I do feel like the FBI is now Night's Watch coded, given that it's like Kash Patel is running it. Like
Night's Watch.
There's a type of guy who's like in the Night's Watch.
Yeah, somebody who gets stuck there as punishment.
Yeah.
He tried to get out of it. He was like, "Can I run the FBI like from my bedroom instead?" They were like, "No, you got to come into work."
Yeah, I think it's usually used to like communicate like a change in guard or like for like in like retirement ceremonies. They say like it's like, all right, well, their idea is like after a long period of standing the watch, then like someone else, it's like the responsibility is carried on, and then we have the watch. Which I don't know. I think that was like it's bizarre for him to say it because they didn't do the same thing. He was like he was like a right wing like pundit and propagandist, and Kash Patel is the FBI director. These are not overlapping roles, even if they may be ideologically aligned. What the fuck are they talking about?
I mean, maybe it's very revealing of like, now it's time for us to like villainize trans people. Like you've had your role doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I shudder to imagine if the roles were reversed, and let's say what they would, what we would call a far left, somebody far left in the eyes of Republicans was assassinated. And like, if the FBI, like Andy McCabe or whatever, or James Comey got up and was like, "We've got the watch, like we'll see you at Pride," or whatever. Like, can you imagine like how many fucking people would lose their fucking minds?
See you in gay heaven.
Yeah, see you in see you in gay heaven. They would be like, they would lose their fucking minds.
Especially, it's like Charlie Kirk, famously very Christian. And like he's saying like, I'll see you in like the Viking afterlife.
I think this has to be a Mad Max thing that they both loved. They both love Fury Road. And it's like, because I'll see, the war boys, when they would sacrifice themselves, they believed that they were going to Valhalla. They were excited to get there. That's my take on it. I could be wrong.
Probably, yeah.
They just liked movies together. They both liked Mad Max Fury Road, which is understandable. It's a fucking fantastic movie.
Yeah.
I do just think it's very revealing. Like the FBI director is just overtly being partisan in this respect.
Yeah,
They're
totally.
Like it's our time to put cultural political pressure on the American liberal and left.
Hey man, everything you stood for, everything you believe in, like me, the FBI director, I've got that now. I'm going to carry the torch. I was thinking this past week, like just given all of this insane reaction and sort of like repercussions of this murder, this almost happened to Trump. Like, I think about that. Like, this almost happened to Trump. Like,
Oh
I
my
can't
God, I
even
can't fucking
begin to
imagine.
fathom, like, how tenfold, like, the
man.
fascism would accelerate had that been the case.
It is a different type of guy, though. Like, if you had, like, a Crooks killing Kirk and he was, like, a vaguely Republican, I wonder how much, like, less hard it would have hit, culturally speaking. Because it seems like ostensibly, like, at least, like, left liberal motivation, according to those logs, of, like, he's hateful. Like, if someone killed Trump and was like, it's time to stop the right-wing hate or whatever, that would have been profoundly affected the country.
Sure, forever. Much like the JFK assassination, which is still a part of our culture.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the strangest sort of like reactions came when a bunch of NFL teams, not everyone, but a lot of them, had like moments of silence or I guess special recognitions for the death of Charlie Kirk during the games. I mean, I got a list of them here. It was Green Bay Packers, New York Jets, Dallas Cowboys, Miami Dolphins, New Orleans Saints, Kansas City Chiefs, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Tennessee Titans, and the Arizona Cardinals. Like for like it's
not the Bears, baby.
It's like, is there any, if like Rachel Maddow got or something, do you think there would be like NFL games or moments of silence?
Are you kidding?
What the fuck's going on?
They fired Colin Kaepernick for taking a knee for black people murdered by police. Of course not. But it's like, oh, well, Charlie Kirk, like, we're going to do a fucking Blue Angel flyover.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating to me to see this man instantly be, glued with patriotism and America and all of this stuff. It's like, if I had to pick a shining symbol, of America, it wouldn't be Charlie Kirk.
Yeah. It was like I was very busy in the days after it happened, but when I was like sort of like catching up on the commentary and the news, I was very sort of like bewildered by the characterization of his career and his beliefs. And like there's a lot on the right. It was like he was just a normie Republican, just a real kind of like just a meat and potatoes conservative, not a far right guy. Oh God, not extreme at all. I'm like, what the? I was like, what the fuck? Because like I've been familiar with him for years. I was like, what are you talking about?
I remember when people were like, get politics out of football. They were like, we don't want to see it. We just want to show up and watch a game. And now it's flip. It is so funny to watch. It's almost like monkey see, monkey do. It feels like the right wing right now, they've got something that could be like, see, we are oppressed. See, they are after us. See, we're not the fucking majority and have been winning for, 2000, however many years.
They're trying to make this almost like an apolitical death insofar as it's like, regardless of what partisan slant you have, you should agree, like, Charlie Kirk was a good man. The Nick Fuentes line on this was like, like, if they'll kill Charlie Kirk, the moderate, imagine what they'll do to you. And it's like, this guy was not a moderate. Like, I want to
know what football stadiums are doing to honor like all of the children who are murdered by gun violence every year. The dozens and dozens.
The school shooting that happened on the same day.
The same day. I've never seen, did any of the NFL stadiums do like a moment of silence for Sandy Hook?
Yeah. It is wild to think that if the gunman had instead simply murdered 10 random people from the crowd, no one would talk about it. It would be out of the news cycle in a weekend.
It really does seem like the right is trying to make this like their George Floyd, insofar as it's like a death they can use to fundamentally, or to put pressure to like fundamentally change American society.
Oh,
this happened, so now you can't yell at us. Like your job will get taken, and yeah, it's not good.
Yeah. It is not good. I mean, the truth is that, like, I have to admit, I have a special relationship with Charlie Kirk because he actually it was a Charlie Kirk tweet that set me on the path that may led me to you hearing my voice today, because it was back in 2018. I was kind of like vaguely familiar with QAnon. I thought it was like, oh, it's like interesting little kooky thing, but I didn't pay too strong attention to it. So it's just like little kind of like interesting little weird curiosity. But then I noticed a tweet from Charlie Kirk that sounded very, very strange to me. It includes some statistics about like arrests for like human trafficking, for child sex trafficking, implying that like Trump is like arresting so many more people for this crime than the Obama administration ever did. And so it seemed wrong to me. And so I fact checked it, and I realized that the statistics that Charlie Kirk was getting, that was basically the source for the numbers that Charlie Kirk was getting from, was basically a QAnon meme of this sort of like this weird image that was posted to Reddit. And I was like, whoa, shit, this is crazy. Like this Charlie Kirk, he's not some sort of like fringe figure. He's like, he like talks to the president. He's on Fox News. He's amplifying like the craziest, most unhinged bullshit from like, 4chan and 8chan. This is again why I'm baffled by the portrayal of him as sort of like some sort of like moderate Republican. I think most moderate Republicans don't just fucking like copy and paste QAnon memes from Reddit onto their Twitter account. So that's just very, very strange. But yeah. And then like the other time I saw Charlie Kirk was in Arizona in the immediate aftermath of the 2020 election. There was the rally to count the votes in Maricopa County, whereas like there were lots of right-wing figures appeared, like Alex Jones. But yeah, Charlie Kirk, he showed up and then he gave a rousing sort of little talk implying that the people who were counting the votes in the sort of the voting facility were corrupt. His exact words, I think, were like, oh, like people like Lisa Page and people like Peter Strzok are like counting your votes right now. Like the idea is that like there's like the whole election process.
FBI lovers.
Yes. The whole election process is just helplessly corrupt, and therefore you should not trust the outcome. It was like, yeah, that's the idea that like this guy was like some sort of like moderate. I don't know, just like that was very strange to me.
Yeah, it seems like Kirk really served as like a bellwether for Trump-style Republican politics, which like has become the Republican Party, and like in a sense, relatively speaking, the moderate position between like, a Fuentes or someone who's like much further to the right, who's like flanking Trump on the right, and then like, a Democrat. Like that's what American politics is now, that the quote unquote, which isn't a representation of the electorate necessarily, because there are still, of course, like actual moderate Republicans out there. They still vote Trump anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose he's a guy who like really, I mean, it was coalition building the bridge to like, I guess like the wealthy donors who just want a tax cut. They like the Christian nationalists who like, just want sort of like religious values to take over everything. And also just batshit insane people who for whatever reason are attracted to the Republican Party. He was able to like, be at the intersection of all of that.
Yeah. And he's like a person who's like first and foremost cares about the kind of political consequences of his speech and where it aligns him, and just like he wants to stay in the middle, which is why like the Groypers did a really good job at like pushing him to the right on like Israel. Right. And then he realized like, well, I have to respond to that, because that's kind of where the center of gravity of the party is moving, is that there's like some components of it that are kind of anti-Israeli, even if he's affirming the kind of Zionist general talking points, which is ironically like all the Israeli conspiracy theories that it's like, oh, it's like Netanyahu who killed him.
Right.
It's like no, he's just following the center of gravity in the party.
Yeah, the Overton window has shifted so far that like I think people really do believe that like Charlie is a moderate within their party, because like essentially to the right of Charlie is like QAnon, and you could make the argument as Travis just said, like Charlie was sharing QAnon talking points like 7-8 years ago. So by the way, I took so much shit from people, by the way, in Colin's documentary when he asked what was going, what did I think was going to happen with QAnon, and I said QAnon is so extreme it's going to pull everything, right? Like it's going to be Republicans will be QAnon, Democrats will be like old school Republicans, and everything is going to shift. And people got so mad at me, but I was fucking right. Not to iota so like to everybody, but
I mean, like I think that like Charlie Kirk, he also basically he followed, I mean, he ran, an organization that relied on fundraising from people who had a lot of money. And I think he really followed the interests of that. And I think you can see that in the evolution of Turning Point USA. It's like, I was thinking about what's really crazy to me about Charlie Kirk is that he never lived a single year of his adult life in which he expressed a value or an opinion or like a stance or whatever that was not somehow under the influence of like donor money. Because when he was like 18 years old, this is like how he got started. He attended like a conservative conference. He got in because he wrote like a Breitbart article that went viral and everyone liked. And then he attended the conservative conference, and he like memorized the names and photos of like the top 25 conservative donors, so he could like walk up to them and make his pitch. Like this, I mean, this I'll say something about Charlie Kirk, natural born hustler. Like this is a guy who really had the ability to figure out like what he wanted to do, figure out who can help him do it, and then get in front of the people who can do it, so he can make his pitch. So if there's any compliment I could offer, it would be like, boy, this man was a stone cold hustler since the cradle.
This was like, I knew a guy, had an acquaintance in high school named Sam, and I remember one time he showed up to school and he had like a really dope car, and everybody was like, "Oh shit! Like, where'd you get this?" and all this stuff. And I found out that he like had been going door to door, like selling knives. Like he worked for. It was like, you know, kind of like one of those ads that like you see in the paper, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is some fucking like scam or bullshit or pyramid scheme." But he was like such a young hustler that he was like, "Fuck, I could go sell these knives." He went door to door, and it was the first time I was like, "Whoa!" Like, you know, at 17, I was like just discovering pot for the first time. The idea of like enterprising in any kind of meaningful way, you know, I wouldn't get there till my mid to late 30s.
Yeah, so like, you know, what happened was is that like at this conference, he managed to get in front of this mega donor multimillionaire named Foster Freeze, and he was so.
Wait a minute, sorry to interrupt. Foster's Freeze, like the Foster's Freeze, like custard and burgers, like on the corner, like near my house.
Like the Batman villain.
Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Hey Travis, chill.
No, it's spelled Friess, Foster Freeze, something like that.
Okay, so not like the beloved kind of like backyard custard burger joint?
No, not like that. More like the Christian right mega donor.
Everything opposite of what I just listed.
Yeah. So like Foster was like so impressed by this 18-year-old kid who was like making this pitch that he offered him like 10 grand on the spot. And that was, I don't know, man, that's crazy. How are you 18 years old and you like immediately go, I want money for organizing, expressing my opinion. It's like, I'm going to go to the billionaires who sort of like really kind of like shovel money through to various elements of the conservative movement and ask for money. It's like, I don't know. It's like 18. Aren't you a little curious what it would be like to express an opinion, express whatever it is you believe, totally uninfluenced for millionaire money, or billionaire money? Aren't you just a little wondering what's inside of you? What would come out if he was just purely authentic and unmotivated by financial realities of the fact that if you say the wrong thing, that the money's going to dry up? I don't know, man. Fuck. It's like crazy. He didn't live a single year of his adult life in which he knew what it was like to express himself outside the influence of millionaire and billionaire money.
I think it's just like an incredibly cynical view, and seeing America in a lot of ways for what it is, and believing that if you tap into that resource before anything else, that you can become powerful and wealthy, which he did.
Well, fuck yeah, this thesis played out.
It's very Zoomer coded to me. Like it's a type of behavior from an area or from a period where selling out isn't real anymore.
Yeah,
right,
and you wouldn't expect. He's a little bit older. You wouldn't expect like seeing that now, like an 18-year-old today doing that. It's like sure,
okay,
it's like you were in a society that is like fundamentally broken in a way that it wasn't in previous generations.
Yeah, like figure out Amazon drop shipping like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sign up for the AI courses, sign up for the AI retreat where they teach you like 27 AI apps to like manage your finance and become like rich. This is like the kind of targeted ads that I get, that it's like, you don't know jack shit about AI, you fucking old man. Come to my fucking retreat. We got 27 courses. In 3 days, you're going to have 4 different AIs that are like running your life for you.
Yeah, it just feels like he was in on something early before like the rat race has gotten bad enough that said, like a much higher portion of the population is just like, well, what do I believe? I don't know. What thing can I believe that will make like a billionaire donor give me $10,000 just like off of a pitch?
I mean, I'm curious about his upbringing. I don't know if you know anything, Travis, but to me, this feels like a rich person's thing. Somebody that knows that billionaires exist too, that they'll give you your money if you come up with a decent enough pitch for them, and if you toe the line in what they want to say. Like, that's somebody who grows up with people who are talking about politics, who are talking about money, who are, they're aware of these people. To me, like, I wouldn't even, as far as I was concerned, if I asked my parents for like, I don't know, like $350 for rollerblades, like it wasn't even worth asking because the answer was going to be no.
It's very like petty bourgeois huckster to me, like very American spirit Protestant sort of, like knowledge is only useful insofar as it can gain you something, objectively speaking.
Yeah. And I mean, you can take a look at sort of like the shifting priorities in the history of TPUSA, and you can see how it sort of like changes with its donor base. In its like very earliest conception, like back in like 2012 to 2016, like there was a big issue around deficit spending and the national debt. There was this big on the TPUSA website. There was like, here is each young student's share of the national debt. The government is spending too much money. Like, why do they think like young Charlie Kirk was like deeply invested in this? I mean, I know that some of his big earliest donors, like the Koch network, they were deeply invested in it because they were worried that like big deficit spending would lead to higher taxes on high net worth individuals like themselves. So the idea that there's like they need to teach the government some fiscal responsibility so they're not like shoved with some sort of like big tax bill in order to. But that slowly went away. It went into like sort of like at best a sort of like a back burner issue because he started getting a broader network of donors and like who had different priorities and like they didn't give a shit about like deficit spending. They didn't really think it would lead to like higher taxes. And the same thing with like immigration. Like in the beginning, like the first few years, it was like immigration was like all like the whole thing was like, obviously immigration is fine, but no illegal immigration. That's the distinction. And like the reason why this wasn't a big issue is again because like the Koch brothers, like they're at very least they're actually a pretty pro-immigration sort of like libertarian types, and so it wasn't sort of like a major issue for them. But then he started getting some new donors like Richard and Elizabeth Yulin. These are like a couple that like really use a lot of like immigrant invasion rhetoric. So this led to TPUSA and Charlie Kirk's rhetoric changing on immigration. It's interesting, like back in like 2019, there was like the Groyper War, the sort of like Nick Fuentes types attacking Charlie Kirk for being too squishy on immigration, for not being a hardliner. Like they didn't want to like, that kind of thing, because he was kind of like a little bit more like, libertarian squish, I guess I would say, on immigration. But then after like 2020, that changed real quick. He's talking about like putting a total moratorium on all immigration. Like what the hell changed? Well, the change is that he started getting donor money from different sources that had different priorities, and all of a sudden his rhetoric changed. I mean, this is why I feel like when we're talking about Charlie Kirk's legacy, it's challenging to like really talk about like what he believed, right? And some ways I don't know what he like really believed or what he really thought was important. I think he was like obviously an authentic right winger, but like what he said, the words that came out of his mouth and out of the like the sort of TPUSA's publications was ultimately dictated by the people who were funneling his organization millions of dollars.
Well, I think he believed in America's true God, which is money, and I think a lot of these people, like, just anecdotally, the religious stuff comes because it's like, oh, I'm so grateful. It's not that I am the cynical person that instantly recognized the quickest and easiest way to amass wealth and power. No, it's not that. It's like I'm on this divine path and I'm humble. It's the same thing we've always been doing. What do they manifest destiny? And it's I think it's clothed in the religion. I think it makes these guys feel better. That's the problem that when you have a country and a culture in America where gaining wealth and having more than or enough to protect you and your family and stockpile wealth because you never know who's going to try to take it for you, then there's no such thing really as beliefs, because whatever is going to net you the most financial gain is where you're going to sort of tune your efforts and your focus and your beliefs. I think that's why it's so easy easy for people like us and, other sort of like political analysts to just go like, oh, you fucking hypocrites. Look at that. Look, they said this one thing, but like now look at them. They're doing something completely different. It's because, well, nobody actually really has any other beliefs other than trying to not become poor. That's like the American fucking dream is like, don't be, that sad sack with no roof over their head, no fucking, big phone in your pocket, no fast, high-speed internet. I don't know. It's just like, it's very, very, very depressing.
I'm sure Charlie Kirk believed in like the movement that he was a part of and his ability to ingratiate himself off of it. It's like, as long as it's here and I have a big institution within it, donors are giving me money. I'm like the guy who organizes college campuses for, among conservatives, then he was fine, which is, it's a very good summary, I think, of a lot of American conservatism. It's just like a little bit more overtly cynical because he's like an ideologue. But like they do just believe like in, I guess, the violence of American institutions and their position at the top of them. And it's like whatever allows or facilitates that to continue, like that's what they believe. That's what is useful.
Mm-hmm. And I'm guilty of the same shit. I didn't start this podcast with Julian because I was worried about conspiracy culture, severing, a decent portion of the population's connection with reality. I wasn't like, I gotta do a podcast to warn the people about QAnon. I was like, I'm working this like shitty fucking assistant job, and Julie and I are doing this other podcast. Like, I guess maybe it's another piece of shit to throw on the wall. Maybe, maybe something will come up and I'll be able to quit my like shitty day job, that's, fucking driving me insane. I didn't start this because I was like, I truly believe. It was not that. It was out of like a necessity to survive in a system where, a creative brain like mine was having difficulty adapting, I guess.
Yeah, I was just tweeting about a thing I thought was like really interesting and happened to align with like some of my amateur interests. And like, whenever I got some downtime at work, I sort of like was reading through whatever the QAnon community was gathering and sort of like, figuring out the narratives and the Q drops and all that stuff. I just thought it was like super fascinating. And it's like, oh, but also super concerning. And like, yeah, I definitely had this fantasy that like, like tweet about it enough and then like, someone would take care of it, I guess. I don't know. And then I would like go back to like shit posting. It just didn't happen like that. Let's talk a little bit about the fallout of the assassination. The Washington Post, they fired their columnist Karen Ataya after 11 years at the paper over some blue sky posts she made. And yeah, boy, I think you said, Liv, that this may be the very first blue sky post firing ever.
It's very possible. Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. This particular post isn't why she was fired, but she included like a Charlie Kirk quote that I would characterize as lightly paraphrased. So this led to a whole like kind of like battle online. Here's the actual clip of what Charlie Kirk said.
Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously.
I see. And then she characterized that as Kirk saying that black women don't have the brain processing power for those positions.
Yeah. He
actually was just saying it about Michelle Obama, who was a lawyer, right? And and Ketanji Jackson Brown, who's a Supreme Court judge, right?
He's just saying those specific black women are DEI hires.
At like the highest levels of power.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's like, he just happens to be listing like 4 of the most like, politically influential black women. He's not saying all black women, just the ones who have influence and power, those ones. Like, I guess it's not a direct quote to say that he said black women exactly, but Jesus. I mean, it's like, he was talking about for black women in explicitly racial terms when discussing about affirmative action.
Yeah, this really does feel like it's probably not quite as bad, but like, you know, right after 9/11, like there was like Bill Maher got fired for saying that like the people who flew the planes into their buildings weren't cowards, because he was like, that's not a very cowardly thing to do, and then he got fired. Like it feels like we're in that period politically, and the right knows it, and they're like, we have to get as many people fired as possible.
Of course, we got to get them fired. They got us fired.
Yeah, it's only fair. I saw that a lot on like r/conservatism on Reddit, where they were comparing like the Jimmy Kimmel stuff we'll talk about later to like Trump getting deplatformed after January 6th. And it's like he tried to take over the country. It's not the same. Like Bolsonaro got like 30 years in jail in Brazil, in a country that apparently has actually functioning legal institutions, for like just copying what Trump did. He's like, I'm going to do the thing Trump did. And then a real court system that actually works gave him like his life in prison.
It's so fun. I know I'm stating the obvious here, but it feels like we're all just so cooked because everybody's like holding like an apple and an orange, you know, in front of our faces and being like, no, it's the same fruit. It's the same thing, you idiot. You can't see this, you fucking idiot. Like, and I think people just have like lost their minds, like, you know, over the last like decade or so of this going on.
Yeah, there's a part of me that doesn't like comparing it to cancel culture, because it feels like just obviously much worse. Like it's like McCarthyism. Like it's good to like highlight the hypocrisy. Although like conservatives don't give a shit. Yeah. It's so clear that they don't care about cancel culture. They cared about like who is being canceled. It's like it's the Star Wars lady shouldn't be canceled for saying QAnon is real because like they believe in QAnon. Whereas like Jimmy Kimmel should be canceled or should be fired because like he doesn't believe the things they do. They're just very overt about it.
He's like, I always thought like, the rhetoric about like, no, it's like just general a culture of free speech and no cancellations, no shaming anyone for their beliefs or anything. This struck me as the kind of like the slave morality of a group of people who do not feel confident in their cultural clout. Like no, listen, there's a universal rule that you got to be nice to everyone, which consequently means you got to be nice to me.
Especially me.
But like once they felt like the tide was turning, once like, okay, we got the government power and like we're turning that into cultural power. We was like almost fucking own everything. All right, never mind. Fuck. It's like
we're gonna take pay back. We're gonna get them fired.
You know, it's really surprising to me wasn't that the right didn't actually have like a kind of like principled objection to getting people fired over their zesty tweets or whatever. I thought that was pretty obvious. I thought it was like, well, obviously if they could, they would. But it's striking to me that they didn't really believe that such an attitude or such a culture was politically costly. Because like this whole attitude is the idea is like your desire to be to censor people, your desire to be so like smug and above people and like, you know, sort of like shame people for not having the right opinions. That's going to cost you power, and that's why like Trump won. Well, it's like, well, if you believe that, you wouldn't do it and like threaten the power you have now.
Yeah, we're entering this like horrifying era where the right is now like, we are the morally superior, political party. But like they're still doing fascism. Like they haven't changed at all. They just are like, they're like, we have a manifest destiny now to like snuff out basically like whoever we want and whatever way we find, fit.
Yeah, maybe this is overly confident, but I do think woke 2 is going to be so awesome. Like when woke comes back, the cultural reaction to this.
Repackage for them.
I am surprised the extent of the kind of cultural momentum they've been allowed to use, because it does feel like the vibe shift towards Trump has really like kind of waned in the last couple months. This feels like it's a weird kind of like last stand of that, because the Trump's approval was like going down quite a bit. Yeah, it felt like the cultural dominance at the start of the year when conservatives were being like, oh, we're back to like, Reagan cultural hegemony for the right, was just like immediately vanished. It seems like they are just maybe a part of this is that they feel that it's slipping away, and they're like, we're gonna use as much as we have until woke 2 comes back, I guess. guess. I don't know. There's an anxiety among the right, though, that I have seen recently, or I've just like felt to do like some affect theory.
Yeah, which is interesting. And I mean, I think this is part of like their scramble to do like a redistricting in Texas and something. That's not the move of a party that's confident about their like midterm chances.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's like, oh, fuck. We're, you know, a year and a half out. We got to fucking change the rules because it's not looking good for them. But it's like, but yeah, I mean, it's like, again, maybe this is overly optimistic, but it seems like they are doing some things in order to counteract the kind of like, you know, the sort of like the drawbacks of their success.
Yeah, and meanwhile, I think, you know, if you're like terminally online, you know, on the left or center left, like following politics, like you have no choice to become a conspiracy theorist. Like I was talking to a friend the other day about this, you know, about Charlie Kirk's murder, and I was just kind of like, what do you think happened? And he was like, well, did you see how the T-shirt was hanging off of him? He was clearly wearing a vest. He was like, I think it was, you know, obviously a staged assassination, and the kid just fucked up the shot. And he was so confident. And I was like, wow. And I understood in a lot of ways, like what so many of our listeners have gone through when they have a parent or a friend or, you know, a family member, like say something totally kind of, you're like, that's like so that's like a conspiracy theory, but you're like, I'm not going to like argue with this. What am I going to say? Like, there's a lot of ways that you could stage an assassination without using like a real bullet and leaving up to chance, like wind resistance, positioning, and the talents of like a 22-year-old kid using an old hunting rifle. Like, if you're gonna stage an assassination, but he was so confident about it, and I was just like, wow, we really, like, if you're online, I was talking about this with my therapist, like, just yesterday, like, if you're online terminally, and you are following politics, like, terminally, you have no choice, essentially, but to become a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. It's ugly.
Yeah, this one really did break a lot of people on the left's brains, where it's like the official thing that's happening can't happen. Like, we need some sort of conspiracy of like, what if the moon was made of cheese actually? And so there's so it didn't happen like those.
I saw a lot of desperate groiper baking, which is like, it's like, because of the rivalry between the groipers and Charlie Kirk, I think is a worthwhile consideration. There's just no real evidence.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Bella Ciao is on a fucking groiper playlist on Spotify. It must be a groiper coded. It's like, that's the stupidest fucking thing I've heard in my life. He did the Slav squat, which, as we all know, us fellow Zoomers, that is a groiper meme. It's not a thing I've just learned about fucking yesterday, and someone posted a photo of a groiper Slav squat. It made me lose my fucking mind, dude. People, the cope was insane. It's just, how about we like begin in reality first and foremost, and then we can set our messaging from there.
They can't. Neither side can, because they've positioned themselves as good versus evil, dark versus light. Everything is QAnon. It's like, the best thing that this podcast has done for me is it's taken me off of the team. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like in the bleachers watching both teams to a certain degree, and like, I don't have this sense that, like, you know, this is good and this is, this is evil. But when you think of, your political party like whether you're red or blue or whatever, then you can't learn that you're somebody that shares your ideas has done something violent. And like, the right has gotten really good at compartmentalizing this because they've had to deal with so many far right people committing horrible acts of violence. But I think liberals are it's just like, it's uncomfortable for us. You know, we're new here. We're new at being like nasty online. We're new at like finding the Pepes and doing the 4chan lingo and imitating Trump. It's all new because like, we saw it work for them and we think it's going to work for for whatever reason. Like, politics is kind of like boiled, at least online. So I totally get it. I get it. It fucking sucks. Fucking sucks to learn that like, politics aren't so easy, and that like mass, people who are violent can't always just be like placed into a certain basket to make things easy. It's just, we're so far beyond that. And yet every time one of these things fucking goes off, the question is now, who does he belong to? Who do they belong to? Who does she belong to? Who can we pin this on? What casket can we put him in? Like, we're not even talking about guns anymore.
Yeah, it is crazy that like every single like high profile shooting immediately sparks a narrative war to figure out like how to, it's like a real vulture activity where the people are like, okay, how can I make this politically advantageous for me and disadvantageous for these other people?
And it seemed to have worked. Like I saw some poll where like a plurality of people thought it was a right-wing guy.
Oh my God.
So maybe it's just like, let's just do disinformation. Like real politics, it doesn't matter what actually happens anymore, especially with these like contingent events where like it could be a couple things. You just like it was the other side. No. This Spotify playlist indicates it was the other side. And then you just who cares about the truth anymore? It doesn't matter.
I saw a handful of people, a handful of people online live when you were, posting about this, being like, she thinks the shooter like wasn't a griper or wasn't far right. Like next.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And that's us now. Like we're doing that. We're going, ooh, this feels like uncomfortable. Next. Why should we have to, right? Why should we have to? The Republicans, MAGA people get to live in like a total fucking fantasy world. Just like they want to do cancel, why can't we live in the fantasy world? They're having so much fun. We want to have fun.
Yeah, no one's doing like real politics anyways. It's all just like online pretend world. So it's like, the being beholden to the truth is, I guess, a liability in that context.
Yes, and QAA, we're scolds. I mean, as far as I'm
Unfortunately,
concerned. Like we saw, like, it sucks to be in our position. We were in we were in the majority 5-6 years ago, even 3-4 years ago, we were in the majority. But now we're in the minority, and horrible scolds that are going to be like, well, sorry, like, you might have to have, like, a couple, like, an uncomfortable thought or an uncomfortable realization.
I wanted it to be a griper so badly, like it was gonna be so funny, and then it's just like there's just no indication. There was just never any real indication of that, unfortunately. Anyway.
So another very strange fallout from this is that Attorney General Pam Bondi used the event as an opportunity to float the idea during an appearance on the Katie Miller podcast of cracking down on hate speech.
There's free speech and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle.
Oh my God, it's the fucking soy right is ascendant. They're yelling about seed oils and have everything in their food being natural. And now they're doing the thing of like, some speech cancels out other speech. So that sort of speech we have to cancel out to live in a free society. And the speech they're canceling out is like saying that Charlie Kirk was on the right.
Or just like, I think he sucked. There's this weird conflation with like, expressing not an approving attitude towards the work of Charlie Kirk and acting as if you are celebrating his death. But those are two different things. I think, it's like a feature of like, I guess, liberal society is supposed to think that you can think someone sucks really hard, but still does not deserve to be murdered.
Someone's going to lose their job because of a joke they made about it. And like a right-wing person's going to post that meme that's like, satire requires a clarity of purpose, lest it be mistaken for... which is attempting to criticize.
Well, and also it's like cancel villain origin stories because there's so many people who got canceled, right-wing people who got canceled. Like the tennis announcer comes to mind, the guy who was calling one of the Williams sisters matches and said that she's using guerrilla tactics. And, he meant obviously like guerrilla warfare, but he got fired and he got so much hate online that he had like a heart attack. And everybody who has like been canceled by, the quote unquote left, that's somebody who's become a right-wing person for life now. If if they believe that one political side took away their livelihood or threatened their health or their family, why wouldn't they want to be like, I'm coming for all your jobs?
It's only fair.
It's only fair. Because nothing else is fair. Like the system isn't fair, and so this is where we find our fairness, and unfortunately, it's with our hands wrapped around each other's throats.
Yeah, it's like getting your pound of flesh.
Yeah. everybody's just a fucking big monster.
Yeah, I think there's this weird like envy of their political opponents. There's this consistent belief that the only possible way your political opponents can actually gain power is through playing dirty or through some sort of illegitimate means, or like taking some kind of low blow that you are too principled to take. And so there's this idea, it's like, no, well, fuck, is like if like canceling and like, I guess like talking about hate speech worked for the left, it's gonna work for us too. So after Pam Bondi like talked about this hate speech, she actually got a lot of backlash in MAGA world because they were like, "Oh, it's like, no, you can't like prosecute people for hate speech." But when Trump was asked about it, he seemed to like the idea, even threatening the journalist who asked him about it.
And what do you make Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech? Is that, I mean, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
She'll probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart. Maybe they'll come after ABC. Well, ABC paid me $16 million recently for a form of hate speech, right? Your company paid me $16 million for a form of hate speech, so maybe they'll have to go after you.
What? What is he talking about?
I mean, that is basically what Pam Bondi means, I assume, by hate speech. Like they're intentionally doing the soy right thing of like, this worked for the left, we'll just steal it exactly. I do like that Trump's brain is like broken enough that the only thing that he can go to is just like petty grievance he has. He's like, this is perfect. Yeah, no, I would love to use this to silence my opposition.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, yeah, obviously he's so excited about the idea. It's like, hey, I mean, this is a great opportunity to like, you know, to hurt you. You ask me questions. I was like, I love how much of a bitch he is. Just like the person asking him the question.
He's so messy.
Now, the funniest response from Trump on this issue actually came when he was like interviewed about it recently on Fox News.
Charlie said, you know, that there was no such thing as hate speech. He obviously, you know, no one anticipated what happened to Charlie, but you have always been...
Might not be saying that now.
Oh, man. That's so funny. It's so cool how, like, completely explicitly unaffected Trump has been by this. Like, he did not give a fuck about Charlie Kirk. He's like, oh, well, I guess that's not good for our mobilization of the youth or whatever. But he just did not care at all.
Yeah, pretty indifferent. And then I love how it was like allegedly is like, like a real friend to, I guess, himself and lots of other people to write. Immediately after his death, he shoves words in his mouth. He animates Charlie Kirk's corpse to make him say something that he would probably never actually say.
That is the funny thing about like a couple, like Stephen Miller did this about Charlie Kirk, where he was like, you know, the last thing that he said to me was like, you know, fight on or whatever. I feel like that's usually in bad taste, but like you just know that like that's exactly what Charlie Kirk would have wanted about his death, is like use this to hurt the left. And as regardless of how shameless it is, like, you know that he's looking up and like saluting right now.
Absolutely.
All that.
I feel like in life, even as a very young man, he felt like he looked at like, the right-wing network and said, I know I have some certain talents. Use me. He's like a reverse Pinocchio. You know, he was born with no strings. And he went to all the people who handle the strings and says, please use me. Use my abilities for your ends, for your agenda. And so I'm sure he would be very happy to know that has not ended just because his life has. Another strange consequence is that ABC pulled the late night show Jimmy Kimmel Live off of its schedule indefinitely. This came after Kimmel's September 15th monologue about the killing of Charlie Kirk. So ABC confirmed the show is on an open-ended hiatus, not officially canceled. I don't know, maybe they're like, okay, we're just going to take them off the air and wait until this blows over and then put them back. That might be what's happening. Hello, this is Travis from the future of when we recorded this episode. Since then, ABC has returned Julian's favorite TV show, Jimmy Kimmel Live, to the air. In a statement, ABC said, quote, "We have spent the last days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday." However, the local station networks Nexstar and Sinclair, which own more than 20% of ABC affiliate stations, said that they would continue to not air the show, and that way the free speech battle of the sidekick on Ben Stein's game show rages on. In his September 15th monologue, Kimmel criticized how some MAGA figures were responding to Kirk's killing. And then 2 days later, ABC yanked the show. So here is the clip of Jimmy Kimmel.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
It's a good joke. Honestly, I'm impressed. I'm surprised by that Kimmel punchline.
Yeah, that punchline is pretty good. But like what a lot of people objected to was the line, the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Just objectively correct thing.
It's like one of the things where when you actually when you actually read and understand the meaning of the words he's saying, you're right, is absolutely correct, of course. But in fairness, like everyone was doing this as sort of like they were online trying to characterize with his beliefs as politically advantageous as they can. But they interpreted it as Kimmel implying that the alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson, is MAGA or a Trump supporter, which is not the case.
But it's still like, I don't know, like every person on the left on Twitter was saying that as well. And it seems like I don't know, has anyone lost their job other than Kimmel for making that observation? That just seems like as like they were polling, like a plurality of people's takeaway from the shooting is that it's a right-wing guy. And that Kirk helped participate or produce the kind of environment of violence that led to his own death. Like, I don't know, it does seem like Kimmel getting punished for this is like a much more extreme, I think, version of, or will produce a much more extreme version of the backlash to like cancel culture against the right after January 6th. Because it seems like a lot more people in American society agree with, and not only agree with, but think that Kimmel's take is like lukewarm compared to like, all the QAnon people who were banned 5 years ago.
Well, and also, didn't Jimmy like tweet like right after it happened? Like he was like, I'm thinking about Charlie and his family. Like he tweeted something like nice, like afterwards. I think, the right wing is just mad that they're like, no, it wasn't one of us killing one of us. No, this time it was you.
Now, this monologue seemed to inspire FCC Chair Brendan Carr to threaten the use of his agency's regulatory powers while speaking on the Benny Johnson show on the 17th.
But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, there's going to be additional work for the FCC. Again, there's actions that we can take on licensed broadcasters. And frankly, I think that it's really sort of past time that a lot of these licensed broadcasters themselves push back on Comcast and Disney and say, listen, we are going to preempt. We are not going to run Kimmel anymore until you straighten this out, because we licensed broadcaster, are running the possibility of fines or license revocation from the FCC if we continue to run content that ends up being a pattern of news distortion.
So, we can either do this the easy way or the hard way. I mean, that's some real gangster language.
Yeah, does not seem good for the future of American public life.
Yeah, so on the evening of the same day, so what happened was like Nexstar, which is the largest U.S. individual station owner, announced its ABC affiliates would preempt Kimmel for the foreseeable future. Then Sinclair claimed it would replace the show with a Kirk tribute, and then demanded Kimmel apologize and make donations to Kirk's family and Turning Point USA before airing him again.
Donations to Turning Point USA, as if it's like donating to charity. It's like donating to this poor widow, and she just lost her and she will be using the money to make it illegal to be transgender, by the way. That is no more immigrants, no transgender anymore. And honestly, kind of problematic of you to not give her all your money after making an objectively correct statement about
Yeah. Nexstar, for their part, actually denied that they acted because of Carr, saying its executives made the call independently, which is, hell no. If that's true, then Carr did a very stupid thing by speaking that way. So FCC Chair Carr's statement was so brazen that even Senator Ted Cruz made a rare break from the Trump administration to condemn the comments on his podcast.
No. Look, I like Brendan Carr. He's a good guy. He's the chairman of the FCC. I work closely with him. But what he said there is dangerous as hell. And so he threatens explicitly, we're going to cancel ABC's license. We're going to take him off the air so ABC cannot broadcast anymore. And I got to say, he threatens it. He says, we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way.
Yeah.
And I got to say, that's right out of Goodfellas. That's right out of a mafioso coming into a bar going, nice bar you have here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
It's a killer accent, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Boy, yeah, he committed to that.
He's like, he immediately went to imitate the most annoying, like the shortest gangster that's like, hey, what are you doing around here? Hey, you got a shotgun behind the bar, do you?
But yeah, it was funny. It was like, I saw a lot of people claiming that, like, FCC did. It was like a lot, like I characterized, like, well, this is obviously naked abuse of power. It's like, someone says something I don't like, it's sort of like politically nasty or whatever. And so I'm going to use what federal power I have to threaten and punish them and get them to behave as I like. And then people were like, no, it's like they thought it was a ludicrous thing to suggest. But even fucking like Ted Cruz, he's like, no, obviously this is a veiled threat.
Yeah. It's interesting about this has been a tendency in, like, I don't even know if Ted Cruz is a moderate Republican, but moderate Republicans in general of, like, hand waving about the more authoritarian components of, like, the Trump Republican Party, but then obviously, like, just not doing actually anything about it, like falling in line eventually, because they like enough of what Trump is doing that they don't care about the fascism part.
It's true. He might be just thinking long term and having this objection in his back pocket for when if Republicans fall out of power, so he can sort of like claim, no, I always objected to the FCC being used in this way.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, this is a very lib statement, but I do wonder how, like, these sort of decision is polling. Like, I'm assuming a plurality or a majority are like, I don't think the Kimmel should lose his job for that. I think that's crazy.
Yeah, that might be it too. He's just looking at the numbers.
Did you guys happen to see that there were protests outside of the Jimmy Kimmel building? Hollywood sort of came out to support Jimmy after the suspension of his show.
No, I did not see that.
Woke is still back. It's not gone. We still have woke.
Yeah, so I was watching this, and obviously that's awesome. Like, it was a bunch of writers and stuff, and like, of course, like, Hollywood is going to come out, especially to push back against the Trump administration and protect comedians and screenwriters from persecution over something they say in their content. But I did think it was funny. I was like, well, we've certainly come full circle. I have now seen 2 sets of Americans protest outside of Jimmy Kimmel. One to stop the believed human trafficking that he and his crew were complicit in, and now to protest his firing after a very lukewarm, almost tepid indignation of Charlie Kirk. I just think it's funny. No matter what side you're on, you'll eventually end up in front of the Kimmel building. It's like it's like the it's like the museum in Ghostbusters 2. Like, there's a river of slime, and it's always back to like the sewer beneath El Capitan.
Which is so funny because, like, Kimmel is not a divisive figure.
No, not
He's
at all.
Very lukewarm. He's just kind of a guy who shows up and he's like, "Hey, I'm a liberal. Isn't that crazy what Donald Trump's doing?"
Yeah.
That is the real, like, the Nick Fuentes thing where he was like, they killed Charlie Kirk, the moderate. Imagine what they do to you. That's me about Kimmel. Like, they did this to Kimmel. Like, imagine what they'll do to you.
Yeah, exactly. What are they going to do to the QAA podcast?
Yeah,
it has
exactly.
to bleep out quite a bit of. We constantly have to bleep one of the hosts for making violent threats.
Yeah, sometimes 2 hosts.
Yeah. Sometimes 2. Yeah, sometimes 2. We've added a second host who also likes to make violent threats every now and again. Not so much as the one guy, but nevertheless, yeah. What are they gonna do to us? Is QAA gonna become like underground radio? I do kind of fancy myself as some kind of Kyle Reese figure.
That would be cool.
That'd be really cool, actually. That would lend even more to our street cred. Well, Travis has been preparing up in the mountains there. We've got an HQ.
It's like when the shit hits the fan, I'm just gonna disappear into these mountains.
Liv will be trapped in the Coachella Valley.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's okay. They're building Disney Cotino there, which is a storybook living community by Disney, and they're building like a fake man-made lagoon, so we can like escape to the Disney neighborhood and live off the lagoon as like the rest of the world turns into Mad Max around us.
It's a woke safe haven.
That's actually a good idea for a movie or a show. I should write that down.
You should. That's good.
End of the world, like the retired community at Disney's Cotino in the middle of the Palm Desert has to like fend off their like shopping mall neighborhood essentially from like, war boys and like Mad Max goons. That's fucking awesome. We're doing that. Cursed Media, it's coming.
So, I want to end this episode with some more information we got about the possible motive in the killing, because the charging documents include a dialogue between Robinson and his roommate with whom he had a romantic relationship. And this is the way that they communicate with each other, I have to confess, is a little strange to me. It is so strange that some people were claiming that the whole thing is made up. Which is, the government is going to have to make their case in court to a judge and a jury. So that seems extremely unlikely.
The thing about it for me is like Ken Klippenstein has Discord logs of Robinson's account in his like Discord group chat being like, sorry guys, I did it. I'm going to turn myself in. And so it's like, why the fuck would they fake these? Why the fuck would they fake these if they had those? It's like, did they hack his Discord before he turned himself in? To like get a fake admission? It just like, it's also just like, it's so funny seeing like people like Brooklyn Dad Defiant being like, I understand like Reddit furry bisexual chasers really well. And this just doesn't work for me. I just like, as someone who has slept with like cringe Reddit bisexual men, this works completely to me. There's nothing about this that feels like, maybe he's implicating himself at an absurd level. I understand that skepticism, but the actual way that this guy talks, like, no, absolutely. I absolutely buy this.
Go back. Everybody, I want you to, after the episode is over and you've listened to all the plugs, go to your phones and go to your, last messages with your partner. Scroll through, and now imagine that you're a stranger looking at it. We all sound weird and fake in our text message conversations. My wife and I will often have 7 one-word, 1-word, 2-word, 3-word exchanges. It's just everybody when they text, it's like reading Calvin and Hobbes and trying to imagine how Calvin sounds. You know what I mean? It's like everybody types different than they, of course we're all going to sound weird and stilted while we're texting, especially if we've just murdered somebody,
It's sort of like how everyone, whenever anyone's sex get revealed, it's always embarrassing. Like there's no non-embarrassing way.
Yeah, of course. We all use too many. I use too many exclamation points or emojis than I would like to admit.
I do find it interesting that there was less skepticism around the Mangione manifesto than this. I wonder why, because there's I've noticed at least a very market increase where Mangione in that letter implicates himself, and it's a letter addressed to the feds where he's implicating himself. And there were people who were skeptical, but you didn't get shit for being here's the letter that Mangione said that the police found.
I think it's in some ways maybe liberals' own sort of I don't know, phobias coming through, because they're oh no, well if these text messages are real, then that means he did have a trans partner, and if he did, if he had a trans partner, he must be left. You know what I mean? It's as if there aren't many right-wing people, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I know. Absolutely. Because that is just a terrible result. The fact that there's a trans partner of the killer. Although I don't understand why the feds would fake a conversation where she's not liable at all and had no clue that it happened.
Yeah.
While simultaneously trying to have a campaign against trans people and being this happened because of the trans roommate, but also here are these faked logs where she has nothing to do with it.
No, she is a fucking patriot who turned in the murderer of Charlie Kirk. She has been cooperating with federal law enforcement, and she's going to give them everything things she needs. She's a fucking patriot.
Exactly.
Her evidence that she's supplying is gonna get this guy the fucking firing squad like you all want.
Exactly.
So that's facts. Drop what you're doing. Look under my keyboard.
There's a note that says, when the roommate looked under the keyboard, there was a note that allegedly read, I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it.
Roommate says, what? A bunch of question marks. You're joking, right?
Now that's a real, what with that many question marks, that's real surprise.
It's a real surprise, yeah.
Robinson, I am still okay, my love, but I am stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I'd hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you.
You weren't the one who did it, right?
I am. I'm sorry.
I thought they caught the person?
No, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I'd planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering.
Why?
Why did I do it?
Yeah.
I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it.
How long have you been planning this?
She's still like, wait, what?
Yeah.
How long? Like, what? How long have you been planning? Robinson, bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there's a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got to my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't even know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints. How the fuck will I explain losing it to my old man? Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving bullets? The messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notices bulge ooh ooh on Fox News, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm gonna have to leave it. That really fucking sucks. Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun does just fine. I don't know. I think that was a $2,000 scope. Delete this exchange. My dad wants photos of the rifle. He says Grandpa wants to know who has what. The feds released a photo of the rifle, and it is very unique. He's calling me right now, not answering. Since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. You are all I worry about, love.
I'm much more worried about you.
Don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent.
It's so, like, such a profoundly careless and evil thing to do to your partner.
Oh,
and
my
then telling
God.
like, delete these messages. And then she didn't, and she, like, handed them over to the feds.
Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
I mean, well, like, one of the reasons people thought this was fake is that it is a little strange that, like, if someone is, like, so, like, cautious, they're able to, like, get a shot off and, like, do the deed and then leave the scene without being caught. But then then in the text exchange, they detail everything, their motive, their procedures, where they left the rifle, like just spill it all out, like just on a silver platter for prosecutors.
That is quite convenient.
Yeah. There were like 6 police officers on campus when it happened. It was not a very well-guarded area.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Kash Patel could be lying about the DNA thing. Although, I mean, he shouldn't have mentioned that in general because he's like sabotaging the case. But it seems like they've found his DNA on the gun. He was not using gloves.
And also, criminals are dumb. That's why you don't have to be that smart to be a police officer. You know what I mean? Like, people fuck up.
It's a profoundly stupid exchange. Like,
no,
absolutely.
I mean, and here's the thing. I feel like he did a stupid thing. He made the world as bad as Charlie Kirk was. I feel like this really is going to make the world worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he turned up the pressure. He gave the right an excuse in their minds, I think, to do violence. And have it be justified. That is one more notch. That's one more engraving on their bullet,
People can literally justify any action when they think the alternative is being murdered publicly.
Yeah.
So it's not a good situation.
I do like the people who are baking, like, oh, it's a 200-yard shot. That's like, he's a crack killer or whatever. And then it's like, you see how he jumped off the roof? And it was like the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he almost like broke his legs jumping off like a 10-foot roof or whatever.
From what I've been reading on Reddit, so take that with like a huge handful of salt and throw it over your shoulder for good luck. Like, people were saying that with that kind of scope and 200 yards and the rifle, they're like, it's like not that crazy a shot to pull off. Like, that the people who are like, this is Leon the professional, they're like, that's not realistic.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me that the Israel conspiracy has like become like nonpartisan now. It's like, I don't know, I guess Israel was giving him like a boy motor like girlfriend as like a reward for killing. I don't know why they would hire like him of all people to do this.
Yeah. Why would they hire this very stupid person who like leaves documentation of their step-by-step process?
No, and he, from what I read also in the conversation with his father, once confronted, his initial reaction was that he was like, I'd rather commit suicide, than turn myself into the cops. So I don't know. I think if you're if you're wanting to go out and you're political and you're like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna like, that's a viable thing now that has been demonstrated and put on the front page of every digital newspaper, over the last however many years. I think that's like, that's something that people do now. It's like Julian was saying, it's like political assassination. You know what? That's like on the menu now. That's on the menu of something that can get you a lot of attention. It could possibly be a way to go out in a blaze of glory, and I don't know.
Yeah, it is interesting how people were making like, oh, he's like an incel, like you don't even understand the life that he was living. It's like based on the Ken Klippenstein account of like him talking to some of Tyler Robinson's friends, like he seemed like he had a pretty normal life. It's like generally well liked. He had, friends he gamed with. He went outside, had a partner. It's just like, yeah, people like that. American society is fundamentally violent. Like people, I think it's scary for people to think about the idea that just like anyone who's, you just like grew up around gun culture, like is able to shoot, could just like go out and kill someone for political violence. It has to be this crazy, violent, like nihilist, which is just not true in American society.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why this was hitting so hard is that I think there was a kind of like assumption that like if you acquire a certain degree of like wealth and clout, you're obviously going to be protected somehow from like, the random violence that so many people have to suffer every single fucking day in this country. But like he wasn't, he was doing his job as he normally does, and he was just did not see the sunset that day.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly frightening for people to see how easy it is, actually. That if somebody, remotely puts their mind to it, that they can do an insanely significant act of political violence. I think that's really scary. It's scary for me, Hey, we did live shows. Like, I never ever felt in danger, but I imagine that there are some people who are, unstable, who are big QAnon fans, who are not fans of us. I don't know, like, how far does this go? I think it just, it turns up the pressure a little bit, and like, that's the last thing that we need.
Yeah, what's making this sort of like, I guess, like further frustrating, I guess, for a lot of like, conspiracy theorists is that this seems like yet another just lone actor who like, and there's simply no evidence of kind of like any kind of collaboration, even with a single other person. There was a recent NBC News report that said that investigators haven't been able to link Robinson to any like left-wing organizations, and they're struggling to find a way to charge him with a federal crime. So the report says the federal investigation into the assassination of a conservative activist, Charlie Kirk, has yet to find a link between the alleged shooter, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, and left-wing groups on which President Donald Trump and his administration have pledged to crack down after the killing, 3 sources familiar with the probe told NBC News. One person familiar with the federal investigation said that, quote, thus far, there's no evidence connecting the suspect with any left-wing groups.
Also, I'm sorry to like circle back to this point. It's clear I'm like fixated on it, but like, why the fuck would they fake the logs and then also make him a lone killer? You'd think that it'd be I'm also a member of the DSA.
Yeah, sure.
And right, it just doesn't make sense. Sorry.
No, they would say like, no, I am an agent of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
like
Soros himself. He touched my shoulder with his sword.
So the source continued, every indication so far is that this was one guy who did one really bad thing because he found Kirk's ideology personally offensive. In addition, 2 of the people familiar with the probe said it may be difficult to charge Robinson at the federal level for Kirk's killing, while the 3rd source said there is still an expectation that some kind of federal charge is filed against Robinson. Factors that have complicated the effort to bring charges at the federal level include that Robinson, a Utah resident, did not travel from out of state. Kirk was shot during an open campus debate at Utah Valley University. Additionally, Kirk himself is not a federal officer or elected official.
What is maybe I'm like not American, I don't understand. What is the desire to like charge him federally? Because they're hitting him with the death penalty, are they not?
Yes, they are. I don't know. I imagine just the administration wants there to be federal charges just so the DOJ can have a hand in prosecuting.
I see.
So if it's just a state, then like Pam Bondi, like the rest of the DOJ, they're going to be like hands off. They're just going to be watching.
The story ends for them.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, I guess this is a state matter and you handle it now. But this is such a big deal. And I mean, it's also like probably, very good for publicity. This is such a sort of like an image focused kind of like Department of Justice. They want to be the guys, or like, we're the guys who are also bringing them down. But it's like, yeah, they want to be involved in prosecuting them. And like, yeah, they don't want to hand it off to the state.
Yeah, I see. I don't understand why they don't turn on the Discord log faking machine.
Right.
Just get a couple.
Again,
but oh well.
Yeah, just include a line that said like, oh, by the way, I actually crossed over from Arizona to do this.
Yeah. I went and got a McDonald's burger in Arizona and came back.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the QAA podcast. You can go to patreon.com/QAA and subscribe for $5 a month to get a whole second episode every single week, plus access to our entire archive of premium episodes. Liv, where can people find more content from you?
I have a Twitch stream. You can watch me stream on Twitch and yell about the things, probably exactly the things that I've been yelling about in this episode for the next little while at twitch.tv/liveagar.
Travis, where can people find more content from you?
Well, I haven't been tweeting recently because I've been digging into documents. But yeah, I can be found on Blue Sky, which is like, honestly, is not as bad as people say. People say it's this kooky lib fest. I don't know. It's not my experience. You get out of it what you put into it.
I do think I just like how toxic Twitter is, if I'm being honest with myself.
That is perfectly valid. There's like, yeah, it's like if you really like the muck, if you really like straight up like fucking like race realist occasionally popping on your For You page, Twitter is for it. It's edgy. I'll give them that. But yeah, Blue Sky is a little nicer.
Listener, until next week, may the deep dish bless you and keep you.
We have auto-queued content based on your preferences.
And we are going to do that under President Trump's leadership. I don't care how. It could be a RICO charge, a conspiracy charge, conspiracy against the United States, insurrection. But we are going to do what it takes to dismantle the organizations and the entities that are fomenting riots, that are doxing, that are trying to inspire terrorism, and that are committing acts of wanton violence. It has to stop. And my message is to all of the domestic terrorists in this country spreading this evil hate. You want us to live in fear? We will not live in fear, but you will live in exile. Because the power of law enforcement under President Trump's leadership will be used to find you, will be used to take away your money, take away your power, and if you've broken the law, to take away your freedom, Sean.